I'm Steve Hobson, the editor of Motor Transport, and I'm here with Richard Turfitt, the Senior Traffic Commissioner, who's just made a fantastic presentation to the audience, and he's kindly agreed to give us 2 minutes of his time just to go into things in a bit more detail. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Steve.
First question I'd like to ask you about is the recent DFT review of the traffic commissioners and this proposal for a national low licensing rather than the 8 traffic areas, and perhaps a move to fees based on fleet size. Is that something you could tell us anything about now, please?
Yeah, the function review was really positive, very positive in its support for the need for traffic commissioners and actually the efforts by industry. And it was good to have that recognised, and also the efforts of staff during the pandemic to try and support industry. They've sort of held out the opportunities for modernisation. Part of that is looking at whether we could have a national licence for Great Britain, or maybe one for England, one for Scotland, one for Wales. In order to do that, we would need to sort out the fees. Now, that's not within the gift of traffic commissioners. That's for the department to take forward and to look at all the repercussions. Inevitably, they're going to consult very heavily with industry to try and work out what is the best way of charging. But you'll understand, if we reduce the number of licences, it's going to take away the income, and we still need to be able to support the Office of the Traffic Commissioner. Yes. It's a long piece of work. There are a lot of priorities on the Department for Transport at the moment, so that could be a sort of medium to longer term thing, and then that offers the opportunity of a national licence.
Now, we're here at the FORS annual conference, and they're very pleased that you could come along and speak, so thank you for that. What do you see as the role of something like FORS, a voluntary accreditation scheme? Do you think it helps operators to comply with what you're mainly interested in, which is the O licence?
Yeah, I mean, look, sort of the O licence for us is sort of the one rule book. It's the basics upon which everyone can operate. Any scheme which takes the operators beyond that and helps them to monitor their own compliance is great. And there are, it's good to see a number of exhibitors here drawing together various different standards, different auditing facilities, different checks, e-checks and IT solutions. So we're in support of that. Anything that is going to push up the standard from that basic. But my message to the hall today, and I'm very grateful to the candidates for listening to me so carefully, is do your checks yourself as well as an operator. You can't just hand it over to other people and just ignore the operator licence requirements.
I mean, one key thing we heard today is about the levels of training required to achieve, in particular, FORS Gold, and it's a key theme in your presentation as well, that you have to keep continuously training your drivers. Do you think the driver CPC has achieved its aims, or do you think it's time for a change and there are different ways of training drivers to achieve your aims?
I think, again, it's sort of going back to the message I was conveying in the hall. You can't have one size doesn't fit all. The good thing about driver CPC, and there are bad things, I think we hear enough about that from industry, but is still allowing the flexibility for operators to determine what are the key risks in our business, what are the key risks that we're encountering with our particular drivers, and how can we address them. So there may be times when we've sent them on the driver's hours module, they're still not complying, we're going to have to send some drivers on that again. And having that flexibility to suit the particular business has got to be good.
It's interesting to me when they introduced the driver CPC, and yeah, I've got my transport manager CPC, which I took 30 years ago, and I can still be named on a no licence, even though I haven't worked in the industry except as a journalist. Is it not time for some statutory continuous professional development for transport managers as well as drivers?
In fact, you'll already find that in the Senior Traffic Commissioner's statutory document number 3, and we check that because the requirement is not just to have a certificate, but also to be able to exercise continuous and effective management. You're not going to meet that if you're out of date. Sorry, Steve, but you're not. But you have to show that you can be effective in that management. So what we've done is put some starting points in the stat docs about CPD every 5 years, attending a 2-day CPC refresher course, just to keep up to date. So that's part of our gatekeeping function. Okay, you've got the qualification, but can you actually do the job?
You made a very interesting point in your presentation about a transport manager's responsibility to balance the needs of the business and the needs of safety and compliance. We're heading to a period, it's not technically a recession, but volumes are going down, a lot of operators are struggling, costs are rising. Are you starting to see the financial pressures on operators feed through into lower compliance?
Not generally. It's sort of one of the things that the squeeze on margins, which operators mentioned, but it won't come as a surprise to you. We've had a lot of cases arising from driver shortage. I think we're now seeing pressures on identifying availability of maintenance contractors and fitters. That's becoming a real challenge for business. And so I think it's reflected in different ways, and margins are, of course, so tight that the solution isn't just to throw money at it, it's to be cute in the management and spot your own risks, work out what your best solutions are, your control measures are.
Well, just want to finally talk about something you mentioned in your presentation. I wasn't going to raise it with you, but you brought it up, longer semi-trailers.
Yeah.
Now, I know that the guidance since the end of the trial has come from the DFT,
Yeah.
not the traffic commissioners, but a lot of operators are telling us that the restrictions are just too tight, too restrictive, and they're parking them up. Do you think that they should be loosened, or are you agreeing with the DFT that they are different from normal trailers and they have to be treated differently?
Look, I have to respect the fact that they are conditions. They are conditions for the use of the longer semi-trailers. Those have followed a very long pilot and consultation process, and it's getting that balance. As I was talking there about getting balance between safety and understanding the impact of longer semi-trailers and wanting them to be used, because clearly have an environmental benefit that could be gained, against monitoring their use, their impact on roads, their impact on other road users. And DFT continues to listen. I know the policy team that have been leading on longer semi-trailers, they do continue to listen. They're aware of the industry's feedback, and I genuinely, I think that you'll see them respond to that. Now, it may not be what industry wants to hear, but policy and determining what's going to happen with the legislation is not for the traffic commissioners.
I understood. Thank you very much indeed, Richard. Really appreciate your time.
Great to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.